Hey everybody, welcome back to Goody and Johnny Mo at the Movies. Tonight we're doing episode 31, and with that we are going to be doing The Invisible Man. Just saw it last week. It's been a while since we've had a chance to sit down and actually do the review, but it's still fresh in our minds, so we're going to get this out tonight.
Yep. So first, what are we drinking? What do you got?
I'm just doing a simple Sam Adams Cold Snap, just one of their seasonal winter ales.
What looks like appears to be a Guinness, but is actually not. I'm trying something I never had before. It's a Bell's Expedition Stout, which is a Russian Imperial Stout, at $21 a six-pack.
That's an expensive six-pack.
Yeah, like if you were at Yankee Stadium, it would probably be like $3,000 for a six-pack. But it's really dark, it's really strong, it's really good, and I'm wearing a really white shirt.
We'll see if it stays white by the end of
this. Will still be really dark and strong and good by the end of our episode, but we'll see if my shirt is still white.
So to that, thank you everyone for watching and listening. Cheers. Oh, you're drinking without the cheers.
Drinking without the cheers.
You just jinxed this whole video. All right. So, The Invisible Man, the new version by Blumhouse. Blumhouse has been knocking out these horror films over the last few years. It's been I think a very reputable production company that's put out some decent stuff, and they're doing more down the line. This is a Universal property, part of the whole monster universe that it's been talked about originally when the Mummy came out, the Tom Cruise Mummy.
Tom Cruise.
That was supposed to kick off this whole monster universe, and they gave a bunch of little Easter eggs in there.
But that movie was so bad.
Because it did not do that well.
It kind of stole.
They kind of rethought their. I think that stalled everything because I think they had multiple plans for other monster films, and that just really hasn't worked out. I'm really hoping that Blumhouse can take the reins of some of this stuff because they seem to kind of they seem to figure it out and do something. They can do something pretty good, I think.
I've actually never heard it said before. Is it Blumhouse or Blumhouse?
I think it's Blumhouse because it's Blum.
Okay.
I believe.
That's funny when you said that. I was thinking like, wow, I've never actually said it out loud, but I've seen, all the movies. And I know like their intro, like when they do their intro, it's almost like they have clips and homages to a lot of different horror films that they must have been involved in.
Yep.
So it's actually kind of interesting. So being that it's a Universal, that actually makes a lot of sense because The Invisible Man was one of the original Universal monsters back in the 30s.
Yeah.
Which really was at that time would have been Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, and the Wolfman.
When did they do Creature from the Black Lagoon?
That was not until the 50s.
Okay.
And I think that might have been Universal Studios as well, but that was I'm not 100% sure of that, but that was more. Creature from the Black Lagoon was more in the lines of like the 50s kind of sci-fi horror.
Sci-fi horror, okay.
Sci-fi horror, as
I can see
opposed
that.
to the really classic.
Monster, right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of
the classic monsters.
The Universal monsters, really, they were really like true horror films. Very much influenced by German expressionistic horror films, with like angles and stuff like that. But most of those monsters have had an enormous longevity and reincarnations over the years. But originally with like Universal sequels and things like that, and then when the Hammer Studios in England did a lot of stuff with Dracula and the Mummy, and there's definitely been a ton of I don't want to say Wolfman movies, but werewolf movies.
Yes. A couple of Wolfman movies.
Yeah, a couple of them. But The Invisible Man was like a product or a monster or a concept that has not been utilized that much over the decades. In very rare instances.
Well, other than the original.
Okay, so the original one with Claude Rains is really a really good movie. It's a really classic horror film I'm pretty sure it's in the late 30s. There was a sequel to that, The Invisible Man Returns, which was just so. But a lot of aside from the original Frankenstein trilogy, most of the Universal sequels were much lesser versions. And then I think, I don't really know of almost any recent
The only other one was Hollow Man
which I didn't even
with Kevin
see.
Bacon.
because I mean that was supposed to be okay. I thought it wasn't supposed to be anything.
That wasn't a bad film.
Yeah, it was probably an
enjoyed
okay
that.
film.
Yeah.
I actually probably should see that, but it seemed to be okay. But that's at least 20 years old, I think.
Oh yeah.
At least. So now you have this movie, The Invisible Man, and it's like, you know what? You know, for me, it's actually I was actually looking forward to see you know, not even just a new version of the concept, but just any new version. Just to, you know, because nobody's really, not too many people have really tried to go at this that much.
And this was a newer modern take on it, because obviously the original, where the Invisible Man, he had the white bandages.
Yeah, and I think it was probably. I mean, I haven't seen the original.
Was it a chemical accident?
I think it was like it was some sort of chemical. It was a chemical thing.
Chemical, like injection
like
or
injections,
something.
probably along those lines. And I'm not sure what Hollow Man was.
I thought it was something similar as well. But I mean, this whole take on it was
totally
was a
modernized.
suit. You know, this is all
science-based,
all technology-based, with these little like micro cameras everywhere. It was a whole suit that was made up, and it basically kind of reflected the light around it, and that's how. You know, you're guessing. To be honest with you, they actually did not go into the science of it and how it developed it.
Yeah, and I think that might be a little bit of. I think that
hurt the film.
I think so. Yeah, I think they got away with a fast one by just saying there's a suit that can do this, and really saying like almost nothing else.
Yep.
You know, so I think that they could have put some sort of scientific detail in there. I thought.
Yeah, I wish they would have done that, because I think that would have made it a little bit. I just would have felt more satisfied.
Yeah, exactly.
If I caught on to that, because I mean, you're basically piecing it all together by yourself, because finally when you see the suit and you see these little micro cameras and how they kind of dilate and constrict almost like eyeballs, you can kind of get a little bit of an understanding. Well, okay, it's probably taking images around it and just reflecting it back.
Yeah. I mean, I could see why from a story standpoint, I could see why it made sense for them not to really talk about the suit at all in the beginning, because ultimately you're almost in the point of view of the female, the woman character.
Right.
You know, in terms of you don't know what's going on and the mystery is unfolding. So like you don't have all the answers. You don't even know that there is a suit. You know, you don't know anything.
Right.
But so it made that from that standpoint, it made sense from the story that they were telling. But at the end of the day, after the fact, you got almost no answers. You just basically were told, well, this guy was working on this.
It's almost like once she discovers the suit inside. Basically, it was their basement that they lived in. That he could tell that her husband was a scientist, and basically the gist is that it's like an abusive relationship.
Married?
Yeah, they were married.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I thought they were just boyfriend girlfriend.
No, because he was leaving his estate to her, so they had to be married.
Okay.
So basically, there's an abusive marriage. She wants out. She gets away, and they basically they find out that the husband, committed suicide.
Right.
And she inherits this large sum of money, and contingent upon that she can't commit a crime and can't become crazy or basically have mental breakdown, like anything. There was like a couple of stipulations where this happened, she loses the money, and then it goes back to her brother-in-law, and he's basically the lawyer, the estate holder for his brother who had just passed away.
Right.
And it just, as the movie goes on, like it just makes it the husband, of course, is still alive. He fakes his own death, and he's making it appear as if she's crazy. Like he just keeps setting up all these scenarios to make her look and drive her more insane. And she is the only one that believes he's still alive, because she realizes and knows that's what he did. Like he would get inside her mind and kind of screw with her. He did it while they were together, and she's saying that he's still doing it now. He's not dead.
Right. Now, and if this guy was such a I don't know if he was an important scientist. this, but I don't think he was just like some guy working on stuff on his own in his basement.
No, but I think he was very he was very smart.
I think he would have had to have been prominent in the field of optics and things like that. You know,
that's what it was. It was something like he was a genius in optics. That's what it was. Like that was his realm.
And I almost feel like I think one of the things that's a little bit hard to believe from a story standpoint is that she had no idea what his project was.
Yes.
Like
could it have been that he never discussed
never
it
discussed
at
it.
all?
I'm trying to build the suit that's going to make me invisible.
Right, in your own basement, nonetheless.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Your own
it's
house,
there. Like you
it's
know,
there.
like,
He's downstairs working on it constantly, and you have no idea what's down there.
Yeah.
So that
to me, I mean, that might have been a plot convenience.
Yep, I think you and I both said that.
I'm like.
Once the movie ended, I know that you and I both talked about that, and I still agreed to that. Like I feel like that to me was that was a little bit of a stretch. I think it would have been, but again, it feeds into the plot,
right?
Because if it's a known fact of what he's working on, then the whole story goes kaput. Because at that point, it's like,
right.
Oh, well, maybe he succeeded, and there's someone who has the suit.
Right.
Maybe there is someone that's invisible. So I mean, just hearing that, that a man's invisible, it sounds crazy. Yeah. And the more that she talked about it, the more erratic she would get. Like she was proving him right, that it was just driving her more and more insane, that she was becoming obsessed.
Yeah, she almost had to put the pieces together to say she almost came up with the answer on her own. Like he must have come up with some sort of suit that does this.
Yes.
Because again, like I said, she obviously had no idea what was going on. But just to talk a little bit about the house, I remember saying to Chris at one point, like they live in this house that's actually, it's kind of big.
It's big.
It's on a pretty large estate.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just so cold and almost like.
But I think that's him.
In terms of design, there's it's all like, almost like it looks like brick, almost like brick tunnels and corridors.
The whole thing is it's almost like a giant window. The whole surrounding of it, like you could see in and they can see out. It's not like you have typical regular solid walls. There's
no color in it. There's no
But I think that was him. I think the design of the house reflected the husband.
Yeah.
And he was just very cold.
Yeah.
Calculated. Like he was a genius.
Yeah.
He was very, very intelligent. And it slowly but surely, he just starts to turn all of her friends and everyone that she's turning to, turns them all away from her, one by one. And it's like all these things keep happening, and she just doesn't realize, at first, what's happening. She's almost not believing it at first.
Yeah.
And then slowly she starts to say he's not dead.
Yeah. Well, I think psychologically that actually played pretty well, because it's one of those things where it's you've been a victim for so long, it's hard to believe you're free. So all of a sudden, even when given proof or supposed proof that he's dead, or that the threat is gone and the abuse is now going to stop, it's almost it's hard to believe that. So you almost refuse to believe it.
Psychologically, she was so damaged at that point anyway. Yeah. But I think the one thing that really starts it off is, wasn't there a letter? Oh no. The first thing was she found the pills that she was drugging him with in the bathroom.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? That was the first thing.
Those were pills that she lost when she was escaping.
Yeah, when she was running away.
Showed up. I think one of the things that me and Chris both agreed upon, that we thought that the movie, because in my opinion, I don't think the movie was that long, but I felt like it wasn't overload for sure.
No,
but I
think it was almost exactly 2 hours. It was right at that. There was a
lot of slow moments of dead space in this film that didn't really sometimes that type of thing can build suspense.
Yeah.
And I don't think and I think in a lot of those cases it didn't.
No.
It was just dead space.
Yep.
And I'm they could have cut out a lot of that dead space. And I felt we felt that the movie was definitely lacking in enough backstory.
Oh, agreed. 100%.
Kind of giving you, not even, whether it was how they met or, more of a insight into their day-to-day dynamic, as opposed to just,
Well, at some point, they must have been in love, because obviously she married him. So why? And, you don't really see any of that part of their relationship. And like I think like if we would have seen flashbacks, that to me would have helped a little bit, especially while she was secluded when she was, if she had finally escaped and she thought he was dead. Like one would think you would almost reflect back on your life with that person and start thinking about certain memories. I would have liked to have seen that a little bit more.
Without a doubt, and I can tell you right now, if this movie was made back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or even 70s, movies made in those time periods, they didn't have a lot of dead space. They actually they actually jam-packed a lot of stuff and information.
Right, to a small time.
They edited these things together. Scenes were just tighter. The dialogue was faster. And, like if this was an older movie by 40 years or more, like in a 2-hour time frame, they would have filled up that 2 hours
all that space
with so much more information than that was given in this movie within the same time frame. Like you would have had the first half hour would have been before she even escaped. You would have had a whole build up to that.
But I kept reading as we were going into this that this was supposed to be a real scary movie. Like it was supposed to be very suspenseful, and I kind of found it lacking. I don't really felt that. Listen, all right. So spoiler, the one probably the biggest shocking scene.
There is one great scene.
There's one fantastic scene.
This movie.
The best scene in the film.
Oh, we didn't tell anybody about spoilers.
Yeah, we shouldn't have said the
spoilers.
beginning.
Spoilers.
We're gonna go back to the beginning and we'll say spoilers.
Yep. Go see the movie and come back.
The biggest scene is probably towards the middle of the film. The sister, so Elizabeth Moss, her character, and her sister have kind of been fighting, but not by her doing, by the husband.
The husband kind of set it up.
He sets the whole thing up via using an email.
Yeah.
So the two sisters finally get to sit down at dinner at this restaurant, and she basically starts talking about, this is right after she found the suit, and she's like, I can prove he's alive.
It's
and
not
that
just
he's doing this.
She's got stuff that she can prove to her sister that she's just not freaking bananas and making all this stuff up.
And the sister is actually starting to listen to her because their fight prior to that, like the sister wanted nothing to do with her. So the sister actually starts to listen, and then you see her look away from her sister, just like off to the side,
and she's just like looking at something, and you don't even know what it is, and then all of a sudden they cut to just to the side of
Elizabeth Moss. It's like it's just to the side of her, and
there's a knife, a really solid,
just like a butcher
knife,
just floating
in the air. And it's like she's almost like, what the hell is going on? And then the knife just comes out and
right across her throat.
Cuts her throat, and then the knife gets put into the sister's hand.
Yeah, because it's almost like Elizabeth Moss reaches across the table to stop it from happening, and then the knife comes into her hand, and then she's just holding it in shock.
And everybody in the restaurant is now looking around to see what happened, and it happened so fast it literally is like you have a person with their throat cut, bleeding out on a table,
and everyone starts screaming.
Woman right across the table,
next to the table,
holding a bloody knife. I'm talking about that scene where she gets the throat cut. That was like a really well done, shocking scene. I think
that has a lot of shock value to it.
I think it's probably the best scene in the movie.
I agree,
and I think unfortunately it's light years ahead of a lot of almost a lot of the other scenes in the film.
Yeah, big time. No question about that.
And that's but that was totally didn't see that coming, and I was like, wow, that was really that was done really good.
And then basically after that, she ends up getting arrested and taken to a hospital, almost like a mental facility, and everyone's thinking that she's crazy. They drug her to knock her out. And then eventually the husband, he's there, he follows them.
Yeah, I did enjoy the psychological torture aspect of the film.
You almost felt I felt bad for her that it kept happening over and over, and they literally he was driving her crazy, and it just so happened that she looked crazy. Who's going to believe that? Who's going to believe that there's an invisible man?
Yeah, because she is really kind of frazzled through a lot of the film.
And she found out that she was pregnant, and she she uses that against him
Mm-hmm.
because she realized that all he wanted was a child. He wanted a child from her desperately. And so what she does is she goes into the shower and she goes to cut her wrists, and he stops her from doing it. And that's when she draws him out, and then she starts to stab him, and she stabs him multiple times. And then the suit goes kind of like eerie, where it's like parts of it are like invisible, and parts of it, so like you can see all the cameras.
So she did some damage to it, starting to malfunction.
And that's when she tries to start escaping from the institution, and then all these guards start coming, and then little by little, it's like the guards start to realize that it's not her, that there's someone else there, and then she ends up escaping, and then makes her way out of it.
But I think it's just from like a lot of parts of the movie kind of like they look good and they play well, but I just don't know if I quite understand the overall design and intention that the Invisible Man has. It's like, I think you find out that he is in cahoots with the brother. I think the brother's part of the plan somehow, either willing or unwilling.
Yep.
And I'm not really sure because at the end of the day, I feel that the Invisible Man basically sets up his brother to be the fall guy.
I think he tortured because she has that conversation with the brother at one point. They're like, I've always felt bad for you because I always thought he did the same thing to you too.
Yeah.
Like, I've been married to him for a couple of years, but you've had to deal with him your whole life, and I've seen what he did to you. Yeah. So I think he kind of tortured the brother as well, and then somehow he got him into doing this. And it seems that there were multiple suits. There was more than just one.
Mm-hmm.
And so the brother had one too. And she, Elizabeth Moss goes back to the house that she was staying at because she's staying with a friend who's a cop. He's a detective. And his daughter, they're both at the house. So she runs back there to protect them. By the time she gets there, it's kind of too late. Damage has kind of already been done to the friend. But she ends up getting the upper hand on the brother and doesn't realize that. She ends up shooting him, and kills him.
Right, and I think that's the part that I like. It would have been hard for anybody to plan this sequence of events.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if the brother's been in on it the whole time, was the brother the Invisible Man sometimes, part of the time, none of the time, all the time, or was the like they could have easily,
they could have been interchanged.
Yeah,
they could have been.
And what's the payoff for the brother in this? Like, what is he promising the brother at the end of this? Like, you help me out with this, and you're going to get what?
My guess is he gets part of the estate.
Probably is using.
That's my guess.
So, like, I mean, there's, so when I think the big fight in the hospital, where the Invisible Man is like busting people up left and right.
Yeah.
At that point, it becomes obvious to everybody else that could possibly have been made obvious to that what this woman is saying is true. Whereas prior to that point, everybody thinks she's batshit and they think she's wrong and she's crazy. The only person who starts to believe her at all is maybe the sister, and that's when she gets killed.
Yeah.
So now it's like, he's getting away with it.
Well, obviously, when he gets back to when he goes to attack her friend and his daughter, he sees it. He sees what's happening because he walks in, and isn't the daughter like in midair because the guy's choking her, and he's like, "What the heck is this?" And then he ends up stopping it
because the facade is gone now.
Right.
So now it's like, what? Somebody is responsible. Somebody is doing this, and somebody is responsible, and what she's been saying is true. Yep. So, like, basically, by doing and now maybe those interactions were forced because she threw that monkey wrench in by saying she was pregnant, and then it kind of maybe drove him over the edge. But it's like, if that wasn't the case, it's like, you've just basically exonerated her.
Yes.
From all the crimes and all the insanity.
Which is why he comes up with his ultimate escape plan, which was he barricaded himself inside of a wall.
But this, it all hinges on the brother being killed. And how can you make sure that's going to happen? Like, you don't, because the brother, I don't think the brother knows he's going to get killed because he wouldn't do it.
I think for the husband, to me, it's for him, it's a win-win, because if the brother dies, he gets out of it thinking that the brother he lets his brother take the fall.
Yeah, and there's
And if
and
his
he
brother-
can't defend himself.
He can't defend himself.
Right.
So if the brother gets away with it, it still kind of makes it look like she's crazy.
Gotcha.
She ends up dying. They end up, he ends up killing
Right.
her.
Or even if he survives, he just keeps going, and eventually the brother's going to get killed.
Right.
They just, they didn't make it quite clear what the grand plan was. They almost leave it. There's even a little bit there up for interpretation in that, was this the entire plan of the brother?
Yeah, but I don't think it was. I think it was just.
I don't think it was either.
I just think that he was the husband was just obsessed.
Yeah,
he
was controlling.
He's controlling. He's not someone to let. He was not going to let her go.
Yeah,
and especially when they found out that she was pregnant, I think he was doing whatever he could to hold on to her and control her, because he wanted. When she left, he lost that control, and that's when he starts to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's he wanted to get that control back and show her that he was in control. Just a real mental game that was played back and forth, and I think I respected the movie for that, because they brought that across very well, I will say. And then the final, the ultimate payback at the end, the very end of the film. So the husband.
Oh, yeah.
So they find out that the husband's alive, and Elizabeth Moss like, no, she's like, he was not locked in a wall. Like, that's all set up.
She's not buying.
She wouldn't buy it for 1 second. She knew that it was him the entire time,
pulling all the strings.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely his grand design.
So then she ends up.
She goes to the house.
She goes to the house. She plays into it. She goes to the house. She meets with him. He has this whole fancy dinner made for her, and they both sit down and they start talking, and then she gets him.
She excuses herself.
But before that, she's talking to him and wants him to admit.
Oh yeah.
That it was him the whole time.
Right.
And he doesn't. He won't do it. He holds strong. He's very smart.
And she has a wire.
And she's
the cops listening.
Yeah, and so that her buddy's listening. But she gets him to say one thing, and it was the thing that he said right after he killed his sister. It was, I forget what the line was. Like, see you, like, it's not see you soon. It was.
I think I know what you're talking about. What I mean? I forget the line.
I forget what it was. But whatever the line was, he repeated it verbatim.
Yeah.
And as soon as that was her confirmation, she was like, "I knew it was you." So she excuses herself because she pretends to be upset. And
I believe the theory is that she goes to the spot where she hid the other suit.
Yep.
Now this to me is one of the things that I don't know that it makes like, just because the suit exists.
do you know how to use it?
Yeah, that doesn't really mean you know how to use it. Like,
But Elizabeth Moss in this part, she starts. To
I
become
can't
very
set the time on
calculating.
I can't set the time on my VCR without that's a throwback. Without an instruction manual. Not for nothing. She is there. She is gone and back really fast.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems like kind of quick, and the house is big.
Yeah.
So I mean, the timing of it, I don't really know about, but
so she gets the suit on and she knows how to use it
already
and all that.
But she was very smart when she walked in. So because she knows that there's cameras in the house. There's a scene very early on in the movie that I guess is foreshadowing. Now that you think about it, where there shows that there's these internal cameras, and there's one that's pointing right at the dinner table. So what does she do? She sits on the closed side of the camera so that the camera itself is getting the husband sitting at the other head of the table. So all of a sudden, the husband's kind of by himself. He's eating, and he goes and picks up the knife to cut his meat that he's about to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you see his hand come up to his throat and cuts it.
Yeah,
and it's all caught on film. And then within like 10 seconds, all of a sudden, Elizabeth Moss comes out. And comes into frame.
Sees what oh my God,
comes into frame. It just does the whole, oh my gosh, what just happened?
So the thing is like, on film it looks like the guy killed himself.
Right.
Now, I think one of the other little little strains on credibility, credulousness, is that she would have had the strength
to do that
to execute that motion, because no matter, I mean, he's a strong guy,
Yeah.
you know, and he's a freaking animal, you know. Like, I don't know that his hand would have been limp that entire time, to the point where she was able. I mean, even if it was completely limp, I think it would have been hard for her to do that motion. But if he's fighting that motion in any way, it's not going to happen. It's not. You're not going to get like. You're not going to have your neck cut from.
She could have. But you have to remember like how angry she was. She probably had so much adrenaline going through her.
Yeah.
She could have had the strength to do it.
Could have.
And not to mention, you don't know if she's using two hands. You can't see because it's invisible.
Yeah.
So she could have been doing that too.
But to me, it wasn't like a no-brainer. I didn't just look at that scene and go like, oh yeah, she would have been able to. In my mind, I'm going, I don't know that she would. Maybe she was able to do it, but I don't know that it's a given.
No, I don't think it's a given, and that's, you know, you don't have that context because it's just it just happens and the suit's invisible. There's no like eerie effect or like silhouette or anything like that for you to see it. It's just, you kind of just take it at face value.
Now,
so she basically, and then she walks away with the suit, and that's really how it ends up. That's pretty much the end. So I mean, they leave it open ended that there could be, she could take on the suit.
Well, I mean, because keep in mind, you know, the brother's dead and this guy's dead,
right? And she gets the, and I bet
you
you
know,
she's going to get
she's
the
got
money.
the suit, but. You know, how is she going to be able to maintain that technology? You know,
well, this is where what are we going to do with the monster universe? Like, if this is the start of the new monster universe, are we going to do something with this?
Yeah, and naturally we stayed till the end of the credits as always. At least I do. And you know, I didn't
expect there to be.
There was no like Easter egg or anything.
Yeah, there was nothing at the end.
And there wasn't really anything within the movie itself that even like poke fun at any other sort of monster scenarios.
No, it was very isolated by itself.
A very self-inclusive movie.
Doesn't mean that these other things don't exist yet. This could have just, but if it is the first of the franchise, and I don't think they would put those other little Easter eggs in yet, because they probably would want to see how this film does. And I think it did very well.
I know it won the box office opening weekend.
Yeah, and which was last week. So this
week,
but
it only made like $30 million.
Yeah, but I don't think it cost too much to make either. I think they were very happy. So? I think they were happy with that number, and I think they were also happy with the critical response as well, because I think it did well critically.
I mean, too. I think okay. So when we were going to this movie, I was actually really looking forward to it because I actually really enjoyed the preview.
Yeah, the trailer made it look really good.
The trailer was really good and tight, you know, and it had, you know, it was like, it had a lot of, you know, it didn't give the movie away for sure.
No.
But it had a lot of the high energy, high tension. Good night. Love you too. Good night. It had a lot of the high energy, kinetic type of scenes going on. So it was.
This was a great example of a movie with a fantastic trailer.
You know, unfortunately, I think it might, in my opinion, the trailer wound up being slightly better than the film.
Yeah. Because
I gave I gave that trailer like a 3.3. It was like a 3.5 star trailer.
Rating trailer.
And the movie was like, to me, 2.5, 3 stars at best. 3 stars would be a gift.
Yeah.
But I didn't not enjoy the movie. I think I was just expecting it to be better.
No, I agree. It's not. I wasn't. I liked the film, but I was disappointed that it didn't give me more of what I saw in the preview.
Yeah.
Not to mention there were scenes in the trailer that were not in the film, which seems to happen more and more in films. I think they kind of mislead you sometimes with that trailer. Mm-hmm. Just so I guess they don't show you everything that what's going to be in the movie, so maybe they show you alternative takes.
I'm actually curious if sometimes they do that on purpose. There are actually some scenes that like maybe they are really just for the trailer, and it's like it does its job in the trailer. It's great for the trailer, maybe not be as good for the movie, so we're not even going to have it in the movie.
Right.
And most people aren't going to pick up on that.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, they don't care. I mean, they're going to do whatever makes sense.
But I mean, overall, I hope they do something with this.
I don't know that I don't know if they're a sequel.
I don't know if there's a sequel either, because to me there wouldn't be a point to it.
Yeah.
What would be the point of doing a sequel?
What's she gonna do?
Right. Is someone going to steal the suit on her, or is she going to steal?
Is she going to be like? What's she going to
be?
do?
Invisible Woman in it? Is she going to be? Is she going to do something instead? So I don't know if there will be a sequel. They didn't lead you to believe there would be, but
to me, the story arc of the film completely ended.
Yeah, it ends. I mean, unless they end up doing somehow of a shared monster universe, they could somehow bring it back to that.
I thought the music in the movie was good, but it was a little
underwhelming,
a little repetitive.
Oh, okay.
Like, I mean, I understand like some movies have the same theme throughout, but not every movie does that. And there are some really good movies that know how to change it up, depending on the scene, and sometimes even radically, But to me, the music in this movie was kind of like variations of the same thing throughout, a little underwhelming.
Yeah.
And I felt that if the score had been better, I think it would have made.
Oh, that could have made parts of the film better.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I really do.
Yeah,
I think it would have maybe even tightened up some of those dead spaces.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better in building suspense. Some underlying tones and stuff like that.
No, I agree. I would have liked to have the soundtrack, the score to me was not memorable.
Yeah.
At all. Like I would hope to have at least remembered like the overall like theme that they have for the Invisible Man, but I couldn't hum it to you right now if I tried. But sometimes you don't get that.
And this is not one of those movies where I'm sitting there go, oh, it would have been so much better in black and white. I think it would have been about.
No,
the same.
I think it was good, and I'll tell you
what.
Been
about the same.
I thought the special effects were really good.
Oh yeah, that's something I wanted to mention. In the credits, they did a special thanks to James Wan, who I think is like kind of known for like those movies where.
Well, he's done a lot of stuff with Blumhouse, and he's done the.
Wasn't he involved in the Matrix movies?
James Wan? I don't know if he was involved in the Matrix. I know he's been heavily involved with the Conjuring films.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the guys involved like in those movies where they had a lot of like things were done with wires and stuff. I thought he was one of those names.
Possibly,
because that to me is what they used in this film. A lot of those scenes I think were done with people on wires.
Yeah, I would think so.
A lot of the wire technology. I thought that maybe was like either a pay respect or maybe he was even involved in.
He might have been consulted on the story.
Film. Yeah,
he could have even been consulted.
Because visually, I think those scenes where there was, the Invisible Man interacting with people that you could see.
Yeah.
I think visually those scenes actually looked good.
Yeah.
They looked like what it would have looked like if that was happening.
Right. If the person was invisible.
Yeah, and because if those were done bad, that really would have I think been a really negative.
Oh yeah, yeah,
big time. It would have been like, oh, that looks stupid.
Right, or it looks so fake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I give it credit for that. You just wish it was all around. Hit all the marks. Yeah. All around. A's on every subject on the report card.
But I think that's going to pretty much do it for this episode. We're trying to quicken up our reviews a little bit, so get a little bit more to the point. But I think it's going to do it.
Yeah.
Overall, if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. I think it's a good film to see on the big screen.
Yeah, there's really not much out now. So
it's why not go see it? So support the film. But I think that's it, guys. So with that, we're going to sign off on episode 31.
Yep.
Next on the list, we're going to be doing Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. That's Imperial Stout. It's hard to drink all that fast.